Is being lazy good for your soil? Yes, being lazy can be good for your soil. And let me explain. And I know that sounds strange to say being lazy can help anything. My wife and I raised two sons, and I don't think we ever taught them to be lazy at anything. Now, I will say, if you have time off, you have a very difficult job, and you need that time of rest, being lazy is a good thing. But for the most part, I would never recommend being lazy, but I'm going to tell you how it can help your garden. By the way, I'm Jeff. If you've never seen our channel before, I'm Jeff here in Central Texas. We are Whirlwind Family Farm. Thanks for finding our channel. And let me tell you about being lazy and what I'm talking about. And as I said, with my two sons, I always said, give it your best and do your best. And that's exactly what we taught them. And that's what we did here at Whirlwind Family Farm. When we set this little market garden up several years ago, is we worked extremely hard, put a lot of time and effort in studying material to do it exactly the very best that we could and have the knowledge to be successful. By the way, if I look a little cold today, and I know that those of you who live in the northern part of the United States are going to laugh, but our high today is in the 50s. Right now our wind chill factor is actually in the 30s, and it's quite cold. So I'm going to get this information to you fairly quick because it's cold. But back to what I was talking about. We would set up this farm, and I put tons and tons of hours going basically from first light in the morning till the sun went down in the middle of the summer, and I was putting in 12, 14-hour days to get this little garden established. And I'll tell you, from all that work, there was no way I made any money those first 2 years because I hate to even calculate it, how much I made, how little I made per hour. But I'll tell you something, a mistake that I made for several years, and that was putting that work ethic into something that should not have been done. And let me show you what I'm talking about. If you look right here, my wife plants this row of zinnias and different flowers every year to bring in pollinators. Every year we try to plant several rows of green beans, and you can see these have already been froze, they're already dead. If you see all this green next to you right here, those are turnips. There's some snow peas here in the middle. And even over here still blooming, even after we've had a few hard freezes, and we will here in the next couple of days. This is sweet alyssum. You can see it's still blooming and hanging in there. And those are cover crops. These turnips will be cover crops. And everything over here that's already frozen is breaking down, becoming compost, and really helping that soil in the long run. So back to how my work ethic used to be a problem. So if I turn around here and look at some of these flowering plants that are now dead, and you can see we've got some rows of cover crops here. There's some mustard plants, as you can see them right here. There's a little bit of corn that has now been frozen down. More zinnias. And what I used to do is, as soon as that started happening, I wanted a neat, clean appearance in my garden. So that good old work ethic that I've had all my life, I put it into use. I went out there and I took my larger grubbing hose. I went out and took clippers, I took rakes, and I took all that dead stuff and raked it up and made those rows look very presentable, just in case somebody happened to come out and visit Whirlwind Family Farm. I wanted this place to look ship-shape and look fantastic, and it did. Had a real nice appearance. Rows were very straight and clean. Lots of topsoil was being seen. Gosh, it was quite the thing to see. You would have never seen it looking quite like that, where you see a little bit of cover crop in there, some oats and dead corn, and you look over here and you see pole beans that have already been frozen down, and you see some Bermuda grass that's worked its way into those rows, which this spring, each spring I have to go in and take out that Bermuda grass because we have Bermuda grass creep. So back to my good old work ethic. Made the rows look sharp and neat and clean. And what I was doing is robbing that soil of nutrients. So what I'm telling you is, through some laziness And not doing things this time of year, now that we're almost into winter, this is the last day of November. We're 21 days away from the first day of winter, the winter solstice, and we'll be heading in. Even though this is Central Texas, we still have a lot of cold days ahead of us. The only things that are still really going to be growing are some of our greens, our Swiss chards, our spinach, our mixed lettuces, things like that, that'll be in these high tunnels, which, as you can see right now, they're sealed up with the sides down. And that doesn't happen a lot of days here in Central Texas. Usually they're open and vented. But today, even in these high tunnels, they won't be more than 60 degrees inside of there. So those are things that will continue to grow. But out here on these rows, where you can see I left some of the old pumpkins, you can see there's other things here. There are more green beans, which is a little bit of greenness left to them, but they're pretty much done. And they're putting nitrogen back in the soil. And what I learned this time of year and this season is the time I'm telling you to be lazy. And I wouldn't recommend that for anything else. But if you ever pick a time, and I'm also talking to you people out there that may be new to market gardening, and I'll tell you, market gardening takes a lot of time, a lot of work, harvesting, servicing, taking things to your customers, farmers markets, planting, succession planting, weed prevention with going in and using our wire weeders, the constant knowing of when you need to water, how much to water. I'm just going through just the tip of the iceberg of things that market gardeners have to do. So usually by the time you get to October, you're exhausted. And you need that time, you need that break to kind of have a time to slow down, spend time with family, enjoy Thanksgiving, move on through the holidays, for those of you who do this for a living. And I realize some things continue to go in the high tunnels, but it's about a third of the work that you do in the summertime. So it is the time to be lazy. And I'm telling you right now, that laziness is going to pay off with better soil. Because let's say, and I'm going to, for most of you who watch this channel, you have a small garden, maybe a backyard garden, and you'll have your trees that will start to lose their leaves, and there's leaves over parts of your backyard, and you're going to rake those up and get those up. Most people do. But if a few of those happen to cover over your garden, leave them there. Leave them there. I know people who actually pay to have that kind of coverage. They'll pay to have a mulch or a compost that they will put over those rows. You can rake those leaves off when you get back to spring. Leave them there. Because by leaving those things which are decomposing and breaking down, all of that organic material, you're doing one simple thing. There are microorganisms that live in that soil, and if we can continue to feed them through that breaking down, just as you're looking at right there, which all that's going to become compost, it starts to break down, feeds that soil, feeds the microorganisms, which in turn break it down and allows this spring for all that nutrients to have the uptake in the roots in those plants. So that is a long way around of telling you, being lazy in the down season, the winter season of your garden, those things which are meant to be cover crops or those things which are frozen, leave them there, let them break down. So it doesn't look so kempt and it doesn't look so great. You can see those things right there. Who cares? It doesn't matter. What you're doing is allowing soil to be covered, undisturbed, no-till, the advantage of no-till, and then also you're adding a natural compost of soil that's breaking down. And just like I talked about with those green beans over there that have been frozen, the last thing I want to do is take their roots out, because they now have nitrogen stored in those roots. And even when I go this spring and clip them off, or go in with a weed eater or weed whacker and cut that down, I want to make sure those roots stay in so that nitrogen is stored in that soil. And I'm going to give you my last example of something. I used to live up in the South Plains of Texas, up towards the Texas Panhandle. And this is not to knock, please understand, those of you who do large monocropping, 500, 1,000 acres, 1,500 acres. This is not to knock you. You probably know more about that type of farming. You've probably forgotten more than I'll ever know about it. But I will tell you something I used to see, and this was on a regular basis every single year, is that once we would get to this time of year and the harvesting had already happened, whether this was cotton or maize, further north in the Texas Panhandle it was corn, as you would start to see those farmers who are very industrious, they have, and I'll tell you, I've looked this up, those John Deere tractors are now upwards of $300,000 to $400,000. The disc plows or the chisels, those plows that they use. And again, we are a small market garden. Everything here is done by hand. But those plows are $50,000, $100,000. And what I'm saying is when you have that kind of equipment and you've paid a lot of money for it, you're going to use it. Just like when I buy something new out here, I can't wait to go out and try it out in my garden. The same thing, it's just human nature. And if you put a little good work ethic in there, by the time you get to the end of December, you're going to get out with that tractor, plow everything up, plow that stubble under, get it plowed. And I'll be the first to say, whenever you look out over a freshly plowed field, there's nothing that looks better. But here is my opinion, is that when we jump into that plowing and we jump into that tillage too soon, what we're allowing for is erosion. And what we're allowing is for that soil to be disturbed. Around from 3 to 6 inches has been flipped over. And whenever that soil is flipped over, it's dried out and the microorganisms die. And then that whole cycle of having to get petroleum-based fertilizers back in the soil so we don't lose or have less production in the next year on these large monocrops. And I have read and seen some of the people who have gone to minimal tillage, and a lot of them in those areas are now starting to do that. These younger farmers who have studied and looked and not followed those traditions that have been around for 60 and 70 years, where immediately we start plowing that organic material under. And that's fine to plow it under, but if it sits there, and I'll tell you, in those areas where they get higher winds, a lot of that topsoil is eroded away. And you see those dust storms that go through the northern part of the Texas Panhandle. That's just topsoil that's being lifted and taken off because of the eagerness to go out and start plowing as quick as possible. But like I say, there's a lot of great things and a lot of great knowledge there, and I'm not trying to knock it, but just talking about it from the example perspective is sometimes that eagerness and that work ethic to go out and get something done is not necessarily the best result for the topsoil. And I'll leave you with one more thought, and I got criticism for this in the comments this time last year, as I said, I have rows out here where I actually have left weeds in the ground. And I had one gentleman that said, well, aren't you stealing away nutrients from the soil by leaving weeds? And the answer is yes. But if that soil is not covered in anything, it's just bare soil like I used to do out here when I cleaned everything up, I'm going to lose about 80% more nutrients. Where if there's at least weeds there, it's being covered, it's being protected, the microorganisms are not killed or dried out in any fashion, and they have a chance to do their thing. So that's my explanation for laziness. If you have a small garden and you've reached the end of the season, everything now has been frozen down, especially if you live in the northern part of the United States, you've probably already had a couple of snows by now. We'll be lucky if we get a snow here in Central Texas, even though I'll tell you right now, I am freezing. It's cold. The wind chill factor is in the 30s. But that's the time to be lazy. Spend time with your family. Spend time thinking about what seeds I'm going to order for next year. And I'll add another thing. If you do have fresh compost or you have compost that's ready to put down, this is a season you can put it down. On those rows, if they happen to be bare, it's better to don't disturb it at all. Don't come in and use a rotiller, anything like that. Come down and put fresh compost, because through these winter months, it can start to break down, do what it's supposed to do with the microorganisms and start to feed that soil. You just don't want to disturb it. You don't want to use any sort of plow, rotiller, anything that's going to disturb that first layer, that top layer of soil, so it can continue to get better as the years go on. Thanks again. I'm about to shut this down. I'm freezing. Thanks for finding our channel. Again, I'm Jeff with Whirlwind Family Farm. We always appreciate when you like, subscribe, certainly hit that bell for notification. We have a lot of other videos that can give you ideas and motivation for your garden. Check it out. The next video that YouTube will recommend is going to be right here. And we just appreciate your time and hope that your holidays are going to be great ahead. And it's okay to be a little lazy every now and then, especially when it comes to your garden. Let it be, let the soil get better, and you'll do great in 2026. Blessings over you, your family, and your garden. Talk to you soon from Whirlwind Family Farm.